تبعك كويس ما شاء الله.
Assalamu alaikum. How's everyone doing today? Alhamdulillah, good. We're going to go ahead and get started because I want to make sure, inshallah, that we have ample time to ask plenty of questions and go through the meeting. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, welcome to this year's annual IR General Body meeting. I want to tell you guys that this year we're going to try and change the format a little bit. The whole point of the General Body meeting is for us as leaders to interact with you and hear your feedback and input. And somehow over the years, the General Body meeting has morphed into a General Body presentation, which is not the point of the meeting. So the slides really are here just to give us talking points and for us to kind of have some discussions. But inshallah, we're going to try and go through the presentation portion really rather quickly. And I am really encouraging all of you to give us your feedback and dialogue and interact with us. The shura, the administration, the board, we're all here to hear your feedback about what you want the masjid to be like, what we're missing, what we can do better. And that's the point of this General Body meeting. So Bismillah, we'll go ahead and get started. Agenda topics, I'm going to give you guys a general update, and then we're going to talk about governance structure because that has come up. Right? How does the organization run? How are decisions made? What does the shura do? What does the administration do? So I felt like these are things that are really important for us to understand as a community together. Financial overview, where are we? What's the status of IR? You know, we are stewards of your donations, so we have to make sure that we're clear and transparent about the donations and what we're doing with them. I want to talk about IR schools, the Page Road campus, and then we'll close with a community town hall. Right? As I mentioned to you guys, I really do want your encouragement and feedback. I have 3 girls at home, as many of you know, so all I do at home is I just nod my head up and down. So if you give me a chance to talk, I'll stand here and talk all night. So it'll be a much better presentation if we're able to interact with one another and talk back and forth. Like I said, the slides are really just there for talking points. We'll have plenty of time at the community town hall, but if something comes up that you want to talk about while we're in the slide, go ahead and raise your hand and let's make sure that we have a dialogue or discussion about it. All right, so general update. Let's start with why do we have a general body meeting? Why are these meetings important? All right. Update the community on the state of IR affairs, right? You guys are here to kind of understand how are we doing as a community, what's new and what's happening at IR. It is required annually per the IR bylaws. So this is a required meeting that our constitution bylaws state that we must have as leaders to inform the community about what's happening with IR. We get to highlight some of the important work that we're doing. Most importantly, to listen to the community. It's the whole point of this meeting, to get your feedback about what changes you'd like to see, what's going well, what questions you have, and be able to move with that. All right, so with all the program and everything that we're doing, I want you guys to understand that this is the IR mission. Every single program, everything that takes place at IR, we ask ourselves, are we fulfilling our mission to support, develop, and empower people to understand and live Islam with utmost clarity, therefore becoming positive contributors to society? This is what we're trying to instill, and this is the mission statement of the organization. Some of the things that we're doing, as you all have seen, is trying to increase community gatherings. The most recent one here at IR, really excited to say we had over 6,000 attendees. What started with groups of 2 or 3 or 400 have now grown, mashallah, to really, really huge events. So as I've noticed, we now have food trucks and bouncy houses, and it really has become a wonderful way for us to get the community together. So the community gatherings really tend to be something that we're trying to focus on and bring more and more people together as families and as a unit to come celebrate and spend some time here at IR. Ramadan at IR, really one of the things that I think we can be very proud of as a community is the significance and the amount of programming that we have here at Ramadan. Everything from the recitation to the various events that are happening. The lighting ceremony, something that we've done the last 6 or 7 years, has been very, very well received by the community. Most of this is through sponsorship with an organization called TAMAM, Triangle Area Muslim American Moms, and they sponsor the bulk of the costs incurred with the Ramadan lighting ceremony. But we've gotten tremendous feedback from all of you, and so inshallah, we're happy to say that we're going to continue doing that moving forward. The cemetery is definitely a bright spot, I think, for the way IR operates. You know, we recently, or in the past couple of years, did an expansion to the IR cemetery project, and just wanted to kind of highlight some of the newest things with you guys in case you have not, heard about it. But we were able to add about 2,000 additional graves. We leveraged existing burial areas to reduce capital costs, included new operation and maintenance plan for the cemetery, and we should, inshallah, be really well set and positioned for the next 15 to 20 years. The IR does own additional land that we can certainly tap into in the future, but alhamdulillah, we're able to say that for the next 15 to 20 years, we have plenty of ample burial spaces available for us and for our community. So, mashallah, and great work to the cemetery team and for the cemetery committee and all of their work that they're doing. Programs at IR. One of the things that I think IR really, really shines at is the amount of programming that we're able to give to the community. Even if you never attend a program, if you just come here to pray or you come here to spend time with friends and for spirituality and friendship, just know that there is a vast amount of programs available for you, for your children, for your spouses, as a family. Over 300 or 400 programs per year, and really, mashallah, really, really high quality programming. And I think it's one thing that IR we can hang our hat on that and say, the quality of programming here at the organization is amazing. Everything from robotics to, whatever it is that you want to do, but amazing programming here at IR. And to highlight some of that, I wanted to have you guys watch this video that was put together by the media team, and I think really
at the Islamic Association of Raleigh, we believe in the power of community and the potential of every individual. Our mission is to build and develop people through innovative programs that inspire growth, learning, and connection. Our RISE program is at the heart of this mission. Designed for young professionals, RISE offers a space where spirituality meets social interaction, fostering both personal and professional development.
RISE has been an impactful addition to the IR community, and I'm so grateful to be a part of it. It has bridged gaps between educational programming for young professionals and college students, and has also aligned with our spiritual growth, and has given us the opportunity to be involved in social events.
Alhamdulillah, through the RISE programs, I've been able to connect with a lot of new people in the area. My favorite program is RISE Recharge, where we get to come together weekly and listen to Imam Saif give us spiritual reminders.
It allows us to foster a community and to also learn about our deen, and it makes the masjid even more of a home for us.
Next, we turn our attention to our robotics program. Here, children are discovering the world of innovation and STEM. This program not only opens doors to new skills, but also empowers our youth to compete at the highest levels.
We think of robotics as a movement beyond just a program. The concept here is to prep our children for the STEM world. We understand and know that technology at some point was one of the main features of the Islamic Ummah. And we led the world for several years. Our goal at the end is in 10, 20, 30 years, our Ummah is back in its right place, leading the world in technology. The program is led by our young professionals who empower our children, teaching them about STEM and technology in the masjid, empowering their skills, improving their ability to learn new things in a young age so that when they grow, they are able to lead the world in technology and remember that this was something they learned in the masjid and this is something that our deen calls for.
I'm really grateful. I get to see a team of Muslims, and not just one team, but multiple teams of Muslimin at the tournament, and we get to all pray together.
Within 2 years, our teams have been able to get over 20 titles regionally and statewide, including the first place in the state championship. They were able to qualify to represent our masjid, our Ummah, North Carolina, and the United States at the world stage, competing against teams from over 120 countries.
The IAR Basketball League has been a staple of our community since 2006. This year, we elevated the experience with new jerseys, business sponsorships, and advanced stat keeping.
Having 2-3 days out of the week where brothers, from the ages of 18 to 40 plus can just come to the masjid and compete with one another, build relationships with one another, people that they wouldn't have otherwise known, despite being Muslims, despite sharing the same religion. I think it's had a tremendous impact on me. I've met so many different people.
The IAR Basketball League has been very beneficial to me and beneficial to the community because it brings all of the young people together. It's a nice community. It's always shown love. I appreciate the masjid for letting us use the space so we can come together, play basketball and really come together as a community.
Lastly, we proudly introduced the Qudwa Institute, an exciting initiative offering structured Islamic knowledge to adults in our community. This program enriches our understanding of Islam and empowers individuals in their spiritual journeys.
We started Qudwa Institute with the intention of providing quality Islamic education to our students, where we took the traditional sciences and we presented in a way that is easy to digest, easy to understand, and that is relevant to their life as Muslims living in this part of the world.
Being part of Qudwa Institute has deepened my knowledge and understanding of Islam in a structured way. It's given me an opportunity to connect more thoughtfully with my faith and share this journey with others in the community.
I think it's really beneficial to learn about, the obligations, the commands, and the prohibitions, and also kind of knowing that I am following these commands and prohibitions, how the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and the Sahabas and the Tabi'een followed them.
At IAR, every program is a stepping stone towards personal growth and community development. Together, we are building a brighter future for everyone. Join us in supporting these initiatives and help us in nurturing the potential within our community. May Allah reward you for your generosity and accept our efforts.
All right, so as you guys all can see, mashallah, really, really good quality programming that we can all benefit and use as a community. And I do want to highlight and state something really important that it would be amiss for me not to mention. While I'm up here talking to you about these programs and I'm able to kind of highlight all the amazing work that IR does, you can imagine how much work and energy and effort goes into these programs. The volunteers, the staff, the shula, the administration, mashallah, they do amazing work. Really put in a ton of time. The imams team, every single one of these programs has to be properly vetted. We need to make sure that it's financially sound. We need to make sure that it's a good representation of our community and our masjid. So while it seems seamless, you all understand that there's a lot of work that goes into the background. So may Allah reward all of the volunteers, reward their families and their spouses and husbands for allowing them and giving them the time to come here, and our amazing dedicated staff that really dedicate their time to making sure that we have really high quality program. Ahmed, the CEO, who really stays on top of it and makes sure that things are getting done. So jazakumullah khair to all of them. And any advice or feedback you guys have on programming, what you would like to see the masjid give you more of, please let us know, and we'll definitely happy to incorporate those into the programming. All right, let's talk about governance. I think I've had this question come up several times, so I felt like at the town hall or at the annual general body meeting, it'd be good to just kind of discuss governance and how decisions are made and how the organization runs. All right, so two different segments. There's a shura and then there's the administration. The shura is involved in strategy and planning. We implement or basically put together policies and procedures, and they appoint the IR committee chairs. And then on the other side, you have the administration. Administration led by the CEO, where they implement shura policies, they're involved in day-to-day operations, and they oversee the committee's work. So essentially what happens in shura is then translated over to the administration team to be able to make those decisions and implement on them, right? It's the execution part of the organization. Now, there's another body here missing, right? Which is the IR Board of Directors. The IR Board of Directors' role is to make sure that they oversee everything that's happening at the masjid and make sure that the organization stays solvent, is financially sound, and stays on the right path. So they have the overall vision and the utmost authority of any board or any body that's here at the organization. I will tell you that these three functions all really interact well together. The Constitution and bylaws at IR, the document that keeps us safe, that keeps your masjid safe, clearly defines what roles are filled by which department, and they really do work in harmony. Everyone understands their role, and we work together to make sure that things are moving in the right direction. Any questions about governance? Okay. Under the administration side, these are all of the committees that are tasked with getting work done on the ground. They are appointed, the chairs of these committees are appointed by the shura, but then they report to the CEO who makes sure that if they need any additional support or work done, then they have the resources to get that done. Let's talk about finance. So for fiscal year 2023-2024, total revenues were a little bit over 2.5 million. Expenses were 2.405, leaving a net cash increase of $95,278. Now, in general body meetings of past, if you guys have attended these in the past, there were probably 7 or 8 or 9 different slides about finances, and it really is a lot of numbers to look at. What we've done this time, what I've chosen to do this time, is we will publish a general body report that will be available online. For any of you that want to get into more details, every single specific about the finances, you certainly will have the ability to do that by looking through the general body report. So everything's 100% transparent. But I wanted to make sure that we have ample time at the end of the presentation to actually go around the room and be able to address your questions. And in the past, the presentation has taken so long that we really didn't get to the most important part, in my opinion, which is the town hall. So this is a general snapshot of the total revenue. Now, general donations are down. Part of that reason is, of course, understanding the unfortunate plight of everything that's happening in the Muslim Ummah right now. Many of you have chosen to donate to social welfare and to be able to help causes outside, which is understandable. But I want you all to know and understand that it is impacting IR's general funds. Generally, donations are down from where they were last year. And this is a snapshot of social and welfare financials so that you can kind of see everything that we are able to donate and help through the Social and Welfare Committee. Also, it's important for all of you to know that wherever you allocate your funds, per the IR Constitution bylaws, that is the only place that the organization is authorized and allowed to spend your donations. So if you earmark funds for social and welfare, they cannot be put anywhere else. If you earmark funds for education, we only spend them on education. Whatever you decide, we are basically bound, Islamically and lawfully, to spend your donations where you've earmarked them. What I really would encourage you all to do, unless you really feel very strongly about one thing in particular, being able to leave your funds in general funds gives the organization a lot more flexibility to be able to allocate the money where we need it versus having it earmarked in one particular pool. But like I said, if you feel strongly about one thing and you want your donation only to go to Sports and Recreation Committee, you have the ability to do that. But really, general funds would be most beneficial to us as an organization so that we can decide which part of the organization can benefit and can use those funds the most. Yes? You need a good eye doctor. Okay. No, I can't. Sounds good. Unfortunately, I can't expand it from here, but it will all be available online, inshallah, for you guys to look at it. All right. But this is Zakat al-Mal, Zakat al-Fitr, Udhiyya, Refugee, Sadaqah Fund, Rohingya, Indonesia, Morocco, Libya, Turkey, Sudan, Palestine, Afghanistan, Iftar Funds, Food Pantry, Fidya, and then Fi Sabilillah. Right? That's good. And generally, donations to social and welfare are up, right? So it's not that the community is donating less, it's that more of it has gone towards social and welfare, understandably, because of what's been happening the last, unfortunately, the last over a year even now. All right, last thing I want to talk to you about regarding the IR finances is the endowment. And it's really an area that I think we can all be proud of, and to let you kind of understand where we are going with this. We understand that as the community grows, programming will need to increase, everything, all expenses, right? We need more staff presence, we need more police presence, we need to continue to grow to meet the growing needs of the community. And so consistently and constantly asking the community for donations, mashallah, the community is amazingly generous, and you always come through for what the IR needs. But we really are trying to make the IR as self-sustainable as possible, or at least move towards a state of being more self-sustainable. So as part of the IR strategic plan, which was done under the chairmanship of Brother Hassan in 2016 or 2017, I want to say, one of the main things to do was to start growing the IR endowment. And the goal is to get the IR endowment to a size where we can draw from the endowment and become a lot less dependent on donations from the community. And maybe, inshallah, 15, 20 years from now, it really isn't unheard to say that we may not be dependent on the donations anymore. The donations can be used to grow the endowment so that we have something, resilient to be able to leave for our children and future generations. So this is what's happening with the IR endowment right now. 2010, you can see the growth, and then if you look at 2021 and 2022, mashallah, huge spike in the IR endowment. So I'm really happy to announce to all of you that currently the IR endowment has grown to a size of $3.9 million. The goal for the IR strategic plan was to reach $5 million by 2025, and inshallah, we're on track to do that with your generosity and your donations. Part of donations that go to general fund are earmarked and specifically tagged for the endowment so that we can make sure that we continue to grow the IR endowment. And I think last time we did a calculation, once we get to roughly $20 to $25 million, we will be able to pull all of IR's operating capital without having to rely on donations. And of course, the more that we feed the endowment, the more exponentially that growth happens. So hats off to the IR Endowment Committee Chair, Brother Hisham Abdelbaki, Ahmed Koka, Kashif, and the team there really doing a great job. And to all of you for supporting the endowment and understanding the importance of helping this grow so that we can leave something lasting for our children and make sure that we're financially solvent. Questions about the endowment? Good question. So the IR endowment, basically, donations that are come in that are earmarked for the IR endowment, we're able to essentially invest those funds, of course, in halal funds that have been approved by our imams and the imam's office to say that this investment is financially sound, is Islamically sound. And so the money that's there is left to grow over time. And then we do not move any money from the endowment until it gets to a certain period so that we're able to draw from it without reducing from the principal. And there are several different ways that you can get involved with the endowment. And so if you go to the website and log on, find the endowment section, it'll give you more information about how to get involved with that. There are also kind of mudalaba or shared investments. So if you want to share your investment with IR, there's a path there where as the money grows, you're able to reap some of that profit as well, and you share some of it with IR. So mashallah, I've really done a good job putting that together. Any other questions? 2 questions from Brother Hashem so far, nothing from anybody else. All right, but you guys promised me you would all participate. So inshallah, when we get to the town hall, I want to make sure that we hear your feedback and questions so that we can really make this as constructive as possible. All right, IR schools. So let's go through these. MashaAllah, as you know, IR has 3 different schools. Al-Iman Expansion Project. We know that this was a hot topic at the organization and still continues to be. So I wanted to give you guys some updates and highlights on where we are with that. The goal is to expand Al-Iman School to accommodate the growing needs of our community while fostering an exceptional educational environment. So The IR board, Shula, and the administration all aligned with Al-Iman's need to expand the school to accommodate our growing community. I want you all to know as a community that there's no disagreement among any of us about the need for Al-Iman to expand. It will happen, inshallah, and we're working towards that goal. The IR Shura has formed an ad hoc committee tasked with moving that process forward. So they're looking at what specific type of requirements the school needs, how far from campus does it need to be, what can we afford to spend, what's a financially sound investment, and inshallah, as that work moves forward, we will be able to find and identify a property to expand to Al-Iman. Last but not least, the plan involves an additional campus for Al-Iman, not relocation of the school. So one of the things that we heard from community members also is, hey, I like bringing my kids to a school that's located here at IR, and I like the fact that my children are able to be here on campus. So inshallah, as the expansion plan moves forward, you will have both options. It will not be moving Al-Iman out of IR and into an additional space. It'll just be an additional campus of IR or of Al-Iman. Questions about Al-Iman expansion? There's got to be questions about Al-Iman expansion. Yes. Great question. Yes, inshallah. High school really is a tough nut to crack. There's certain requirements that kind of come with high school that are not inherent in a middle school or elementary school. Mainly that understand that if our children go to middle school, they automatically will matriculate into a high school, right? Any public school. Well, with high school, the next step is college. So you have to have certain high school requirements to make sure that our children, our community members that are choosing an Islamic high school have the same, if not a better chance of getting into a high quality education like NC State or Harvard or wherever they decide to go. So the quality of education and the requirements for a high school really are significantly different than an elementary school and a middle school. That doesn't mean it can't be done, and that does not mean it won't be done. It's just a lot more difficult than elementary school or middle school. But we are working on it, inshallah, and trying to find a path forward. But great question. Any additional questions about schools or education in general? Yes. Good question. Yeah. Yeah, I understand that. Unfortunately not right now, but it is the most urgent item right now at Shula. I can tell you probably for the last 8 or 9 Shula meetings, which happen monthly, this has been on our agenda every single month. So we understand the importance, and we definitely know that it's something that needs to happen very, very soon. So we're constantly discussing and trying to find something. And inshallah, as soon as we identify the right property, we'll see if we can find a way, a path forward to make it happen. Oh, the question is, do we have a timeline for the school? So I was explaining to him that unfortunately we don't, but we are working on it diligently right now.
So when you say expansion, like what do you mean expansion?
Yeah, so expansion right now for Al-Iman would be, because we have roughly, I think last time I checked, 180 or 200 children, is that right? 300 children on the wait list, mainly lower grades, correct? Yeah, mainly the lower grades. So that's the first step for expansion, is to identify a property that we can start our lower grades in. And then depending on the size of the facility that we find and the needs, if there's room there for high school or something for us to do something like that in the future, absolutely. But I think the more immediate need right now really is for the lower grades, because that would be a much low-hanging fruit, if you were, versus tackling a high school right now. Okay. Great question. So the sister said the Page Road campus was initially identified to be an expansion for Al-Iman, and what happened to that idea? So that is moving forward, and I'll address your question as we get through these slides, if that's okay. But that will be an option. Essentially, I can go ahead and talk to you guys about that now. Page Road is roughly 20 or 25 minutes away from our current campus. It's not terribly far, but when we polled most of the students that were here at Al-Iman, the challenge was driving back and forth, and so that campus is a little bit further away than to be able to accommodate specifically the needs of the children that are on the waiting list here. But we will have a school at Page Road. And that school hopefully will be opening in 2025, concentrating on lower grades. So that will be an additional option for the community. It may not necessarily be an option for everyone who's on the wait list now, because it is, it's certainly a little bit of a further drive away. But at least we will have an immediate option, hopefully as early as 2025. Now, I want to address something really important. The school at Page Road will not take place of the need for Element to expand. So that will just be an additional option, and as that Page Road community grows, it will need its own school there as well. So it will sort of be able to help us serve as a little bit of a buffer for anybody that wants to send their children there and are willing to make that drive, that commute. At least they have an option for now. But the school that's opening at Page Road is not intended to be the LMN school expansion campus, because we need something within 4 or 5 miles of our community here, which is where most of them go to school. An-Noor Quran Academy. So we've had several town halls with parents of An-Noor, and they had voiced some concerns, and we really had a number of great meetings with the administration and with the principal and the HIFS director about what we can do to improve An-Noor Quran Academy, and we're really making significant strides there to really enhance the overall culture. There was an ad hoc committee that was put together by the shula that really did amazing work to kind of try to figure out what we can do to make An-Noor better than where it is right now. And they've come up with some really good concrete plans. One of them is going to be revamping the HIFS program, so including a lot more actual memorization days and decreasing the number of testing days. We're improving An-Noor Quran Academy culture and learning environment to make sure that it's a really well-seated environment for the children to be able to thrive and learn, at the maximum of their capacity, and really better communication between parents, teachers, and students. Of course, these are really just highlight and bullet points, but really I think if you have children at An-Noor, I think you're gonna see significant changes in the upcoming semester, really things that are gonna strengthen the school and make it significantly better than where it is now. But the team there is really doing a great job and really working in unison and together to make sure that we're giving the children a great learning environment there. Last but not least, Al-Furqan Sunday School really continues to be a shining light for IR. It's heavily attended and continues to really operate at a high level. My children all went to Al-Furqan. They did get to develop strong friendship with their peers, foster deep connection with the masjid, and grow spiritually, emotionally, and socially. In my opinion, one of the best things that Al-Furqan does is, yes, the children get some Islamic education. The children get some tadbiyah, but they get to interact with children their age, and it brings them closer to the masjid, and they develop friendships and bonds here, in addition to the classes, right? So that the fact that they're in school, it's just as important to me as a parent, and I think to the organization, the fact that we're giving the children a space to be able to spend their Sundays and bond with one another and grow spiritually, emotionally, and socially. Now let's talk about IR at Page Road. So, the property at Page Road is 25.16 acres, and it is really intended to be a generational project in the heart of RTP for our community, for us, for our children, inshallah, for our children's children and generations to be able to really utilize this space and grow it. To give you an idea, a rough idea of the size, I believe our current campus is roughly 3 acres, right? Maybe 2.5 or 3 acres. This is 25.6, so you can understand the scope and the amount of space that we have here at Page Road to be able to expand and grow into the future. Right now, everything that is happening is essentially at this front level. Well, actually here, this is Page Road, so it's at this front level of the school, and you can see where the ground has been, broken there. Everything else is left untouched right now. And so, currently, there's 2 phases planned on being done, a phase 1 and a phase 2. The playground has already been completed, and there will be a school there on this campus. Now, as I mentioned to all of you, we are only building this initial portion up front. Here's a question for you guys, and I want someone to answer. Who will determine what gets built here? Is it the shula? Is it the IR board? Is it the administration, or is it somebody else? not investor, not investment. Who will determine what gets built here? The masjid, your community. You guys will tell us what you want to build here. So this is specifically left empty. We don't know what you want, right? But we want to make sure that what we're building fits your needs. And I really want to highlight something important here. When you see surveys come out from IR, please don't ignore them, because this is how we get your feedback. When we say we are thinking about developing phase 3, and would you like to see pickleball or volleyball or a library, whatever it is, we are counting on your feedback on those surveys to tell us what it is that the community needs, how you would like us to build, and what is of the most importance to you, right? So that's why we send out the surveys, and we really do count on your feedback. As Shula members, we're only here to serve as your representatives. It's not our decision what gets built, it's your decision, and it's our job and our amana to take what the community wants and make sure that we put forward policies that will give us that, right? That gives you what you want. All right, so let's talk about Page Road and kind of, I want to give you guys an idea of where we are right now. So we're slated to build 2 phases. Phase 1 has already completed. So here's a timeline. Completion of Phase 1, IR Page Road will officially be open and ready to receive community members, inshallah, prior to Ramadan 2025. So we really are expecting somewhere within the next month to finally be able to open this facility. The delay in construction has not been because of IR. The city of Durham had a huge backlog with water meters and getting water inspections done. And so that has been the holdup. Finally, alhamdulillah, that has moved on. And so inshallah, we really, I would say Ramadan 2025, I'm hoping that would be worst case scenario. But inshallah, in the next 3 or 4 weeks, we'll have the facility open for to be able to receive community members there, and we can all utilize and benefit from it. Abud, I think you had a question. I don't know, to be honest with you. Anybody have that answer? What's the occupancy? Oh, it's 11,000 square feet. I thought you meant how many people can accommodate. Okay, yeah, 11,000 square feet. Oh, how many people can we accommodate? I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know. But I'll find out for you. I'll let you know. Okay. Now, the IR school at Page Road, as I mentioned to you guys, will be open, inshallah, and accepting students in the fall school year of 2025. It is to be determined whether that school, we have room for 4 grades. So it either will be pre-K, KG, 1 and 2, if there's enough need from the community for a pre-K class. If not, then it will be kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Right? So right now, we're polling the community to say, do we need pre-K? And is there enough of a demand for us to utilize one of the classrooms as pre-K? But we know for sure that we do have a need for kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade. So for the children that are currently on LMN waitlist, this will be an option for you, inshallah, in 2025, if you don't mind, sending your children or driving to the LMN, to the IR at Page Road LMN campus. Like I said, that is not intended to take away or deter from the need to expand LMN in our current facility here. Other questions? Yes. Yes, good question. So phase 1 of the project right now, downstairs is all lower grades, and currently the masala is upstairs. Now, why would we build it that way? There's a reason. The reason that the masala is on the 2nd floor right now is eventually, once we build phase 2, that entire building will serve only as a school. So right now, where Al-Iman and Al-Furqan are all sharing the same space, that presents some challenges for the children from a safety and security perspective. On Fridays, sometimes it's difficult because it's hard to tell exactly who's coming in. Meanwhile, we have the children here. So moving forward, and having learned from that, understand, of course, that when IR was built, when this building was built, we never really planned on having something the size of Al-Iman here. But because the community needed it, we were able to accommodate that and put a school here. But moving forward, in the Page Road property, we want to make sure that we separate those two. So a long way of answering your question, saying currently in phase 1, there's a school on the bottom floor and a masala on the 2nd floor. But once phase 2 is built, that entire building, all 11,000 square feet, will just be a school. And then the phase 2, or the building next to it, will just be a masala, so those two are totally separate. Right? And there is a vestibule connecting them, but we can certainly isolate them and separate them out that way. Inshallah, right now, the plan for phase 2 to initiate construction, we're thinking somewhere around 2029. We need to give that community their time to develop. Inshallah, about 5 years will be enough growth, depending on donations and the community's desire to move forward. If Allah wills and we have the funds to do it, we'd love to break ground sooner than that. Future phases, ongoing development at Page Road based on the community needs. Right? Whatever it is that the community feels like we need there, we will be able to, inshallah, accommodate and build that space for the community. Last really important thing I want to mention about Page Road, and I think that this is clear to everyone, but just to remove any misconceptions. IR at Page Road is 100% an IR property. It is not a sister property. It's not an offshoot. It's just a secondary campus administered and run by the same shura, the same board, the same administration team. And so we will be able to kind of keep that unity and keep things together. Questions about Page Road? Yes. Yeah, the student capacity for each of the 4 grades, I think it's about 120 students total, so 30 per grade. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. So that's the presentation, and I wanted to make sure that we leave plenty of time for questions. And it doesn't have to be questions related to the slide. Any general questions that you all have, I promise you, I'll answer them as clearly and as transparently as possible. And if I don't have the answer, then you have my promise. I will get the answer and get back to you as to, any questions that you have. So anybody want to raise their hands and general questions first? All right.
So basically, I remember Wa'al Jabir, I think he left, but he used to always talk about that he used to have a hard time with, on weekends with families bringing their children and then leaving, depending on maybe like one of their friends to be overseeing. This is a disaster waiting to happen. And so far, like, we could be like hushing up on it, but I think it does talk about an intrinsic need that we are not really looking into, which is taking care of the kids afterward. Some people send them to programs, some people don't. And there are different ages. I noticed that we are always looking for K-12 ages maybe, not below. So these are 2 comments about how the masjid is actually being used as a free area to, yeah, you understand.
Yeah, so the brothers, I think a comment, but definitely one worth considering, for all of us. The masjid, of course, is for certain programs and things like that. Alhamdulillah, like during the Ramadan programming, we're able to provide babysitting services for the community. And, it's a privilege and an honor to be able to do that. Meanwhile, just like anything else, sometimes the system gets abused, right? That I know personally of cases where people will come and drop their kids off for a program and go off for a date night, right? They're not here at all, or go have dinner somewhere. Well, that's not the intent. So, let's make sure that we're all mindful of that and making sure that we're utilizing the resources and communities' needs appropriately. Of course, we're happy to provide a space where the children can come and spend time here and hang out with their friends and play basketball and spend time on the playground. At the same time, you are of course responsible and liable for your children, so you can't just drop them off and assume that it's the masjid's responsibility to look after them. There's been situations where children have wandered off near cookout, and we've been told that they're there and somebody has to go get them. So it's impossible for the organization to be able to keep a lookout, an eye out for every single child who's here on campus. Security does a wonderful job, but we all have to be more mindful as parents and make sure that we're properly raising our kids and telling them what's allowed and what's not allowed. But thank you for the comment. Any other questions, comments? Yeah, going back to the school.
We've been talking about a high school for 15, 20 years since I've been here. I know it's really something needed, but in other communities, I know in Texas, Dallas and Houston, they have high schools that just seem to crop up. So my question is, are you working with the school committee? Because they were also working on, they found a place, and then that was shot down by the board, so what's going on?
Yeah, so Sister Deal had a question about high schools, and you know, I will tell you that building a high school is part of the IR strategic plan. So it's there. We know it's important. We are working on it. You know, Sister mentioned that there are communities in Texas that already have high schools. Yes, we are aware of them. We've spoken to them. It can be done, and I'm certainly not trying to you know, say that we won't do it or that we're not capable of doing it. But those communities, you know, really are larger in size. They have significant donations, and mashallah, I mean, this community has been wonderful. But when we last did a feasibility study on high schools, just to give you guys an idea, the upfront cost was a little bit just below $100,000 per seat. It was about $92,000 per seat for us to be able to build a high school facility that would meet the state needs. So just to give you an idea, a high school for $9.2 million. Right? It doesn't come cheap. Doesn't mean we can't do it, but the cost is significantly more than an elementary school or a middle school. Now, of course, once the school is built, your cost does come down, but it's getting that initial seed money of being able to, you know, there are science labs and a certain number of computers, requirements for teachers that really, you know, rightfully so, make the expense significantly more than a middle school or an elementary. But I do want to let you know that, yes, it is in the works. We're continuing to look at it. And inshallah, if we find a space that we're able to get into, that will definitely be a possibility. Another surprising thing that I want to share with all of you is last time we inquired about a high school, once we knew the upfront cost, we did send out a survey asking the community saying, you know, give us your intent to enroll your child in a high school. And I was expecting the number to be really high. It ended up being 12. Now, I'm sure that if we built the high school, we would get more than that, but that was the results of the survey. 12 people actually, I think that what we said was for you to hold a seat, it requires a $100 deposit, and the intent of the $100 was just to make sure that people are serious. And we ended up with 13 families that said that I would want to enroll my child in this high school. So I know the need is there, but inshallah, we'll find a way to tackle it. It's needed. We have to. As we grow as a community, we have to find a way to make this a reality. Yeah, so for those of you guys who didn't hear, Brother Shams Al-Sur's comment was to consider either a virtual high school or potentially a hybrid school. And those really are both good options. A virtual school would really be, I would imagine, pretty easy to set up. And hybrid certainly would be far easier than having everything in person. So that's certainly something that we can look into. I think part of the reason that we haven't explored it yet is we do worry a little bit about the quality of the education if it's all virtual, and more importantly, how will universities view this virtual high school that our children went to and received a diploma from a virtual high school. But I think your point's very well made, Brother Shem, to at least look into it. You know, we always need volunteers and we always need people to champion these things. So if there's any of you that have really a genuine interest in the high school and have some time to help us look into it more and explore it as a further option, we certainly would be happy to have you, volunteer your time and give us feedback and input. But yes, we'll look into the virtual option and see if that's something worth considering, or even a hybrid model.
We have an Imams council that tries to coordinate among the various masajid in the area, but can we expand beyond that and do some administrative coordination and collaboration too? Alhamdulillah, the community is what it is. My last count is 12, maybe 13 masajid are in their campuses, just in the triangle area, and that's unofficial. But I always see an opportunity. I'm going like, can we have this as a shared event? Why are we doing 3 different events on the same day, or one in the morning, one in the afternoon, one evening? And that requires a little bit more coordination beyond what the imams are doing. Any thoughts on that? And along those lines, one thought I had was that there are now slowly, alhamdulillah, propping up some high schools in the area. They are at the starting stage. Surely we can have like a feeder program to feed whoever wants to go there. No one is restricted, but maybe have like an MOU or some sort of an understanding saying children from Al-Iman, if they wish to go, will be maybe first come, first serve, or whatever can be done. Something like that.
Jazakallah khair, Abrar, for the question. I think kind of 2 parts. So the first one involved kind of more collaboration at the administration level for the masajid. It is working, and we are making progress there. The small thing that we started with, the last community gathering that we had here, I believe it was Eid Fest, that was actually a combined event where IR did it here on site. And we just asked the other masajid to chip in for whatever they felt like is fair. So we're trying to start with things like that. Yes, I think it definitely needs to happen, and we are moving in that direction. One of the challenges is chairmen come and go, right? So the chairman maybe has a different feelings towards, how much they want to collaborate, whereas the Triangle Imams Council, because there's a lot more consistency there, it's easier for them to continue that continuity. But I think, having the local area masajid work closely together, absolutely. It's the best thing for the community. I would love to see, one large unified Eid one day. Maybe imagine if all of the masajid could get together and, have enough among the 12 or 13 of us to even be able to do something like in the Civic Center and do a really large gathering where you get 50 or 60,000 people versus 10. Something like that to show that as an ummah, we are united. And really make a strong presence here in Raleigh and in the community would be great. So I think something like that would be a great start. And your second question about the high schools, yeah, I think having a feeder program is great. I think to my knowledge right now, most of the LMN children kind of automatically, it seems like they matriculate towards TMSA, kind of a similar feedback. Of course, they can go anywhere, but I do hear of a lot of LMN children eventually going into TMSA. One of the ways that got me thinking that one of the ways we can potentially look at a high school is if we were to do a charter school, then we would get state funding and county funding, and that really will make things much, much easier for us. The problem with a charter school is you cannot control certain things. So if IR was to pursue a charter school for a high school, what we then would be required to do is have a normal curriculum throughout the day, and then after school program would be the Quranic part or the Arabic part. So you can have an optional after school program, say from 2:30 until 4 o'clock, but the regular traditional school would end at 2:30 p.m. Now, one of the interesting things is even as a charter school, you can actually enforce uniform. So part of the reason, of course, that we want to start an Islamic school is to be able to enforce certain dress code and certain requirements. That is allowed under the charter program. but you cannot change the main core of what has to be taught in school, and then you're allowed to do anything that you want at, after hours. So that is an option, and maybe that's something worth polling the community about at some point in time and seeing, is that a feasible option? Would it be truly a IR Islamic high school? I think not in the sense that we all want to see an Islamic high school, but I think we could control the narrative a little bit better and at least make it not as, loosey-goosey as the regular high schools are out there. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So apparently, yeah, they've looked at that charter school. That was for high school also, or for everything? To 12. Okay, okay. All right. Other questions, comments? Yes. I can't say that we've considered it, but I will tell you we have been offered probably every month. We get some that has an interest in that property or that land. So maybe it's something that the shura can talk about, but we really, I think that the thought process there is having this land as the community grows and as prices go up, it would be really difficult for us to replace it and be able to find a property that in the future, we're thinking inshallah with 25 acres, inshallah for the next 50, 70 years, maybe even longer, right? The community has the space it needs to continue to grow. If we're thinking about doing something like senior housing at some point in time, or maybe something like a Zaytuna Institute type of thing, a high school, we have the space and capacity to do that there. So I understand your point. I think it's something worth considering, but that would be the loss, right? Is it would be very hard to get that size parcel of land together again. Yeah. So the question is to kind of help understand and explain why there's a lack of synergy between An-Nur and Al-Iman and kind of not more of a sharing of resources. Is that correct? Yeah. It's a great question. I think it's a matter of having them be able to work a little bit better together and getting their curriculums lined up. The schools really do have two completely different objectives in that, Al-Iman is a secular school with some Islamic education. An-Nur, of course, is the exact opposite, right? It's 6 hours of Quran and maybe 2 hours of secular education. But there should be a way for them to kind of share resources. And I think it's something that the shura definitely needs to kind of talk about. It's always hard for independent entities to give up some control and be willing to work with one another, but that's something that we can definitely work on. Good question, yes.
So on the property, I know IR had many other places, land, and what's the status of those? So what I learned is some of them have already been sold. So now we are holding on to this 25 acres, but we have sold closer properties for whatever reason.
Right.
So that's, I think, one on Bryan Road, somewhere on Bryan Road there's a property, and then one on the airport, somewhere around that.
Yeah.
And then a few properties, what's the statuses of those, and if you have sold those, what's holding this 25 acres?
Yeah. So good question. Brother was asking about the properties that IR owns and what is the status of those properties. So I'll give you an update on all of those, but it's important for you all to understand that when IR as an organization, when we acquire a property, again, it goes back to donor intent, right? So we might have a fundraiser, for example, and if you all remember the fundraiser for Page Road, the intent there was that this is a space for the community to use in future phases and future growth for the community. So when the community comes forward and they donate for that cause, that property is earmarked for us to be able to build and develop the community there. IR does not sell that property. Some investments are purchased, or some land or property is purchased purely as an investment. We know that we are buying this property with no intent to build on it or for the community to utilize it, but we know that it's going to appreciate, and so we look at ways for us to make a good, solid investment. There's also property that was purchased for the youth, and I'll kind of give you a good example. Currently, there's a property at Mid-Pines that the IR purchased, I want to say roughly 12 or 13 years ago, and the donor intent of that purchase was for the youth committee to build soccer fields, volleyball, and be able to use it as a space for the youth to be able to go. And it's only about 4 or 5 miles away from campus. It's close to Tryon Road. Well, years and years went by, and the youth committee decided that they didn't want to use it for a number of reasons. It was a little bit too far, it needed to be cleared. It didn't end up being utilized the way the organization intended it for it to be utilized. So that property has since been listed for sale, and alhamdulillah, I'm happy to tell you guys that that will be closing roughly in the next 3 or 4 weeks. When IR receives those funds were earmarked to be used for some type of youth development, whether it be a soccer field or whatever. So when we sell that property, because that was initial intent of that property, we want to make sure that we always honor donor intent. So if that's what the community donated it for, then that's what we're going to use it for. So currently right now, Mid-Pines is the one property that's listed for sale right now. Of course, we have the land in the cemetery that is donor intent there just for cemetery, and that will never be put up for sale. And then this property here and Page Road. So the other ones that were sold, the last one, there was a piece of property, can't remember what the name of it was, but one was sold, and that property came as an exchange from Church Street, and we had purchased Church Street as a place for the community to grow and develop into. And so the donor intent there was for us to use it for community buildings and to grow a second campus. So those funds then got earmarked into Page Road because that's something that we're going to be building for the community. So when we sell a property, we look at why IR purchased it for, why did the community donate, and then we make sure that we move the money the same way that the community intended to donate to. Other questions? Yes. This is good. This is actually exactly the type of general body meeting I wanted to have. So thank you guys for asking questions.
So you have sent out surveys on the usage of Page Road, and I remember I'm a senior, and there was a lot of commentary about the need for a senior center, like a nursing home or some kind of facility like that. And there are many doctors in the community who said that maybe they could even put up a clinic there, just a temporary clinic. So I'm just wondering, have you gotten any feedback for private developers? Yes.
Yeah, so the question was that in the past when we had sent out surveys for feedback, that many community members said that they wanted to have senior housing as potential for the use of the space at Page Road. So the answer to your question is yes, that is definitely something on the docket and something we're considering. I want to go back to the slide here of Page Road to kind of show you where that would be. All right, so if you look at this schematic here, up here is Page Road, and then you can see in this back area here and behind this, there's all already housing here. So the plan that the shula is kind of working on right now would be to utilize the bottom or the back portion of the property, since it's already connected to housing, and utilize that potentially for senior housing. We are talking to a couple of developers and a couple of people that may be able to either partner with IR or be able to find a way to build this property and utilize it as a senior center, senior facility. If we do that, one of the plans that we plan to do is there's a road here on the side. So imagine if we do build housing here, if you live in one of those communities, or if you live in a townhome or something that's there, you don't want to have to drive through the masjid, especially imagine on Friday traffic every day, right, just to go buy groceries or to leave. And so there is a side road that we could use to connect. I think it's actually this one that's here, that's already sort of built. And so the thought would be that people, community members that live in that senior housing, they have a separate road and almost like a gate to get through that property that's not accessible to the rest of the community. So it'd be a separate entrance for the masjid property and that community versus the senior housing, to make it easier to get in and out. But yes, Sister Deal, to answer your question, that's definitely something that the shul is moving forward with and trying to find a way to make that happen. Yeah. Yeah, the masjid, mashallah, we're blessed with really good volunteers, but we never really fill our need, meaning anyone that has time and wants to volunteer, we can always use your service. And yes, on the website, there is an area where you can go to volunteer. The form is really simple. It just kind of asks, your name, contact information, and then what field you're interested in. So that helps us collect, if someone's an engineer, or they're an architect, or they're in programming, or they're a doctor or a nurse, so that we can kind of figure out, what our needs are. And a lot of times people, donate their time and volunteer in something that's not related at all to what you're doing. So whatever you have an interest in, I promise you that the organization can definitely use your services somewhere, and we'd love to have you as part of the team. Yes.
Thank you for answering the second part of my question before. The first part. The second part about services for under K-12 child services.
So okay.
That's a good thing to do because the market for one child is expensive, but if one caretaker takes several children, that becomes reduced. And that's only provided in like YMCA or like in commercial areas.
So you mean like a daycare almost, right?
It is a play area. They don't call it daycare.
Yeah.
It's like you don't bring the child, and caregivers can come and share their services in this area.
Okay.
It's organized.
Yeah, for like a number of hours. You mean like as a business or just a volunteer-run type of service? Right.
The way it's being done in co-worker spaces, this is a business.
Yeah.
So like usually between the 2 miles, that's because the current offers is that it's a bit heartbreaking to see that so many people are like taking their kids to the non-nested areas like YMCA and not coming here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I think definitely it's something that we can take back to the Shoda and really explore. One of the challenges here is we really are out of space. We cannot grow vertically. We can grow, yes, absolutely, Page Road. There's just no more room for expansion here on this campus at all. And that's part of the reason that, Page Road has so much promise. But I do agree with you. I think that's a wonderful idea. What we've done here at IR to try to kind of bridge that gap a little bit is, if you remember, this space next to us used to be a library and really wasn't utilized. So now it is just community flex space open for anyone to use, not true, co-work space. I don't know how quiet it is in there, but anyone that wants to go, the door's always open anytime for any community members to be able to use it. But I think we'll definitely look at that, inshallah, at Page Road. All right. Other questions? Yes. Inshallah, yes. I mean, there's definitely plenty of space there. So, we really, the potential is great. I mean, we could do anything from pickleball courts to a large gathering space to a really large banquet hall or community center that eventually all needs, and that could be a way to generate revenue for the community as well, right? Like a really high-end, nice banquet that you would be proud of and that, you'd rent out for maybe a wedding or graduation or something like that. But yeah, I think once we clear enough space, absolutely, it would be great to be able to host the community there and consider doing that for Eid prayers. Yeah.
Is that road the only access to this property, the Page Road?
Yes, currently, but they are expanding Page Road, and as part of our construction, we actually had to create a turning lane into Page Road. So right now it's 2 lanes. We've already built a 3rd turning lane in, that's already complete. But the city does have plans to make Page Road even wider. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be tough. You're right. I think this road here eventually, see, this road is built and it's closed off right now, but it's already kind of dug. So I think eventually there will be a way for another access point to, for us to be able to get out. And inshallah, we're, potentially on the road front here, there's potential for like almost like a commercial building, right? Where maybe we have a doctor's office or, some type of bakery or restaurants, and we can lease that out as a commercial property for, that would also generate revenue for the masjid. Parking, we have plenty of space right now. There are 100 spaces already cleared and marked. So there's 100 spots available right now. And as the community grows, we already have plans to kind of expand that, right? So the investment team can identify properties and then make recommendations to the shura. So then the shura has to approve and say yes or no. And of course that depends on the current fiscal state of IR and whether the shura feels like this will be a good investment property or not. But I also want to tell you that the investment team, mashallah, they've done phenomenal work. Really, the properties that they've bought have all appreciated exponentially. So they really are doing a great job. Yes. It's okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a very good question. I understand. Like I said, I know that this is extremely important for the community. So we have basically taken steps right now. There's an ad hoc committee that's been formed that consists of 5 members, 3 shura members, 2 members from the LMN school, which are the chair, Brother Wadah, and Sister Faria, and then 1 board member as a non-voting advisory member. So those 6 people are tasked with going out and identifying the parameters, looking around saying, what do we need, right? Like just making sure that we're able to meet what are we looking for really is where they are right now. So one of the things, for example, we're considering is, well, it has to be within 5 miles of our current campus, because the parents have told us anything further than that is not going to be good for us, right? We want to be within 5 miles of the current IR campus. Well, if we need 300 students, 300 would just meet our immediate need now, but we know that the community is going to grow, right? So just finding space for 300 students is good for this year or the next year, but what about 5 years from now? And what about 10 years from now? So how much space do we actually need? So they are doing that work to identify the parameters that we need, and once that happens, then we will go start looking for properties and figure out what we can afford and what we cannot afford. And then depending on what we find, we'll come back to the community and say, here's what we found. It cost X amount. Do we have enough donations to make this reality? Can we actually move forward with closing on this property, right? So that's where we are. But again, I want to stress to you, I know, really, I understand how important it is. And it has, honestly, every single shura meeting, it is a agenda item. Until we get it resolved, we will continue to talk about it every single meeting until we find a solution for the community. Yeah. Other questions? Yes.
Strategic planning for the community at large. We understand that growth has been happening in this area tremendously, and our community is also growing in the last 10 years. This is, as you know, the whole area over here is growing, and that will continue. Our community will continue to grow. And if you notice that we have a lot of masajid around and a lot of programs around, the IAR are uniquely positioned to lead a strategic plan for our community so that we don't duplicate resources and we utilize whatever services that we have within the community. Is there any strategic plan for the community at large that maybe the IAR can lead and implement and distribute for all of these different community centers that we have? Or is this just every community center, they are on their own, dealing with their own audience, if you will, and having their own programs. So that's the kind of things that I think maybe the IAR will be able to lead because of the size and the community that they have in here.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think I agree with you 100%. It's something that has to happen, not should happen. As the community grows and as more and more masajid join, we have to find a way to unify, at least on a certain level. I don't think we're ever going to get to the point where every masjid is in sync, but there has to be some form of unification. One of the things that the imams have really done that's been great is being able to unify just on Eid day, right? And you always have some exceptions. There's one masjid that says thanks but no thanks, but everyone else says yes, this is good for the community. And when we do things like that, one of the good things that came out of it is we can now go to public schools and say we want Eid off because we're unified on one day. So I agree with you 100%. I think it has to happen. And we are moving slowly towards that, but I take the onus on that, and I'll tell you that I really will push harder to make sure that we put this more on a fast track to get better unification among the local area masajid. There are some resources that are currently shared. To give you an example, the Social Welfare Committee, when someone comes and they are needy, right? The Social Welfare Committee has a very, very good process of vetting them and making sure that they actually are needy. Well, in the past, what would happen is some of those people would go from masjid to masjid to masjid, right? And collect money from all of them. Now that process is unified. So they share that resource back and forth. This individual has come to me, we've already given them this much per month, so that the masajid are now aware and people aren't able to abuse the system in a way that wouldn't be fair to everyone else, right? So certain things are unified, but I think the more and more we can get unification, the better off the community will be. I'll tell you that, for me, for example, my own children, they go to programs anywhere. It doesn't matter to them whether it's Masjid A or Masjid B or Masjid C. They just say, Baba, there's a program here. It sounds interesting to me. I want to go. So in a sense, they're all places of worship, and mashallah, like we want them all to grow and continue to get bigger and be successful. So I think having that some sort of unification at a certain level would be great. So, yeah, inshallah, we'll definitely work on that. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum. I just want to co-sound to brother, mashallah, about strategic view. We just went through election year, and this election was unique. Everyone, I think, was thinking what to do, right? And in this situation, you as a IR and leadership of the community, maybe it's too much to ask, but and it is political, and worship organization needs to be staying away from politics, but this is, I think, most important thing for us, because if we will be limiting ourselves only about, inside of box, others are manipulating with our community, and not only in United States, even internationally. So I'm thinking, what can be done in order to push, mashallah, such a big community, representatives to the decision-making bodies. Let's say North Carolina, and then upper, and then even, for example, again, another conflict will happen somewhere in Middle East with Muslim country. We are like, again, surprised what to do, who we need to talk. Mashallah, brother Hisham was giving, mashallah, very strong khutbah today. And I'm thinking, person can go and start organizing, mashallah, there is brother Maipak, organizers here, but it's maybe masjid as a body which is on the top of the things and oversee how many scientists we have, how many researchers we have, how many bright minds we have, even gifted students graduated. To put that minds together, maybe masjid can organize some club or think tank or something to make this community not like a helpless when there is such a big tectonic moves happening in the world. We are really now in a third world war currently, even though it's not like openly said, but reality is like this. Everyone is in a third world war, and we need to do something with this. You are, as a leadership, what can be done? I'm just asking. I don't know personally, just thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you for the comment. I think it's really something that's on all of our minds, and what can we do? There's a couple of different things you mentioned. One of them, politics. I'll give you the easy answer for that is IR is a 501c nonprofit organization, and as part of that charter, being a nonprofit, we are not allowed as an organization to endorse one candidate or the other. We have to stay 100% away from politics. So legally, we're not allowed to. And I will tell you, for me personally, as chair, I actually like that policy because the community is so large that no matter how strongly you feel about one candidate or the other, believe me, there are people that vote for candidate A and candidate B and candidate C. And anything that divides the community won't be good for us. So regardless of who you vote for, regardless of how you feel politically, this message is for you, this message is home, this message is all-inclusive for anyone. And so we always try to avoid anything that can cause polarization or a split. But even if we wanted to, per the laws of a 501c organization, we cannot endorse a particular candidate or the other. There are certain chapters, like you mentioned, MAPAC. MAPAC is not structured the way IR is, so they can endorse a particular candidate. And whether one individual wants to take that endorsement or not, of course, that's between you and the ballot box. Whoever wants to vote for whoever they can, that's up to them. I think it's a fair question, and it makes it difficult for us. And I wish that there was an easy answer, but I can even tell you among the scholars, the very prominent scholars here in the US, they disagreed about who was better, right? Joe Stein or somebody else or whatever. So there isn't consistency even among that. As far as the second portion of your question, what can we do as an organization to help the betterment and kind of plight of the Muslims around the world? There's people definitely way more qualified than I am. I would really defer to Imam Muhammad and the Imam's team, and Hisham Sassoud, who has a lot of knowledge in this. I'll give you Osama Saeed's answer is, the stronger we can become as a community, the better off the entire ummah will be, right? We have to build ourselves here, make this community as rock solid as possible so that we are in a position to be able to help other people. But again, I defer to the imams and Brother Shem about any advice they have about what else we can do. Right? We, mashallah, the IR does donate generously, and it comes from your donations to be able to help others, but I always feel like that's just a Band-Aid. That's not a fix. Right? We're just trying to stop the bleeding. How do we really improve the plight of Muslims around the world? I feel like we need another 5 years for that.
Yeah, one of the issues that we are working on the social welfare is not just to collect money and send it for food and tents and this and that, to try to put about 20% of whatever is collected to build communities overseas, build schools, build things that would last in this regard, empower people economically, and instead of just give them money, buy sewing machine for sisters in some location, buy 2 cows, 3 sheep, and so on and so forth. So that's something that we are looking into as an option, because we figure out if we just put the money for food and for drink and that alhamdulillah is a good, but some money need to be devoted towards something long term, inshallah. One follow-up, inshallah. I know this is not a subject that can be dealt tonight, but a follow-up to what Brother Nawaf has asked. When it comes to thinking strategically for the community, not for the IR. Yes, I think his idea is a good idea for IR to take the lead. But this is not just masajid. It could be masajid, it would be ethnic groups, leadership of ethnic groups. So along this line, I think we should start thinking of organizing strategically for the community at large, and the IR can take the lead, but they cannot, or they should not be saying, oh, we will be the ones who doing it. I think you understand.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement on that. I think we definitely need more collaboration and taking the lead with all of these different communities to improve things. So any other questions? Yes, sure.
Assalamu alaikum. You know, my job is traveling, and I travel almost 30 states, at least 4 times a month. I have not seen a single masjid that I visited open during Salah like this masjid. Security is always there. A door is open 24, not 24 hours, at least during the prayer times. Anything you need, you found it. Again, I travel, I go to every masjid, wallahi, I don't see this. I come to a closed masjid, even during Salah, they say, oh, you're gonna come back in 30 minutes or 20 minutes later. This is a center that everybody should be happy about. Alhamdulillah, we don't have this. I've been to Dallas, Houston, even in the big cities. I don't see this. I don't know, maybe I don't live there, but I come in a weekend or something. Alhamdulillah, I'm blessed to be part of this community. May Allah bless you all. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum.
Salam. We're blessed to have you as part of the community. I agree with you. I've also had a chance to travel, and it really is a blessing from Allah, and the community is amazing. The masjid, the space, is nothing more than the people that are here, really. So you guys are what make IR amazing. 92 different nationalities, which really is unique, right? You have these masajid that are heavily geared towards one particular segment or one type of, the population or demographic. But IR has always been global, and that's really, I think, part of what makes this masjid so special and unique is that it truly is an embodiment of representation of the entire Muslim Ummah. So may Allah continue to bless this community. I want to thank you all for your time. Really, this has been wonderful, and I hope I will make more of an effort as chairman to have more of these types of dialogue and interaction with all of you. I hope that all of you will consider getting involved, whether it's volunteering, Shura elections are coming up in November 2025, serving as a committee chair, doing whatever you can to help and really kind of drive the organization forward. We always need, people to come and take the charge, and fresh people always bring in fresh ideas and a fresh perspective. So inshallah, we'll continue to build on the organization and move in the right path, and may Allah guide us all. And I'm going to put Imam Muhammad on the spot and say, if you don't mind closing us off with a dua. Jazakumullah khair to all of you.
Jazakallah khair, Dr. Usama, for the presentation, and Jazakumullah khair and all for being here present and to support your masjid. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring the hearts together. Allahumma aghfir lana warhamna, Allahumma afina wa'fu anna, Allahumma taqabbal minna ma qaddamna wa ma akharna, wa ma asrarna wa ma a'lanna, wa ma anta a'lamu bihi minna. Allahumma ya Rabbal Alameen, ati nufusana taqwaha, wa zakkiha anta khayru man zakkaha, anta waliyuha wa mawlaha. Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'ah, وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم ارزقنا الإخلاص في القول والعمل، اللهم ارزقنا الإخلاص في القول والعمل. اللهم سدد خطانا وارفع ذكرنا ويسر أمرنا وارفعنا في عليين يا رب العالمين. اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين في كل مكان يا الله. اللهم اجعلنا من أهل النصر، اللهم اجعلنا من أهل النصر. اللهم اجعل ما نفعل في سبيلك نصرة لهذا الدين العظيم. اللهم آمين. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. وصل اللهم وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. وجزاكم الله خيرا جميعا. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.